Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever time of day it is and whatever part of the world you're at right now. Welcome back. And today we're going to do a review of quadrilaterals. Okay, just a quick little review of quadrilaterals and the different types of and four different types of quadrilaterals. Okay. There are actually five. The fifth one is trapezoids, but I'm going to do that later in another separate video. So, just to start off, we're going to start at the top, okay? And really, for our progression, we're going to go this way. So, let's see. Let me get another color. This would be 1, 2, third level, and then this fourth level here. Okay, so that's how you read it from top to bottom, and then I'll talk about these other arrows that we have. Okay, so first of all, you need to know that quadrilaterals just means that it's a shape, a polygon that has four sides. Okay, a figure with four sides. So if you see any figure that has four sides, you can call it a quadrilateral. Right. Next, after that is a parallelogram, a more specific type of quadrilateral. Now, parallelograms, there's two things that define a parallelogram. The opposite sides are parallel, and the opposite sides are congruent. Okay? That's important to remember. So those are the two things that basically define a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel, and opposite sides are congruent. Now, I know mostly everybody has heard of a rectangle. Now, what is the definition of a rectangle? What are the parameters of a rectangle? Rectangles specifically have four right angles. So anything that has four right angles is said to be a rectangle. A figure, any figure, polygon that has four right angles is a rectangle. Okay? Now, what is also true is that the opposite sides are congruent and the opposite sides are parallel. And it has four right angles. So everything above rectangle also applies to rectangle. But the definition that makes a rectangle is not only that it has four sides, not only are the opposite sides parallel and the opposite sides are congruent, but it's that it has four right angles specifically. Okay, so now let's take a look at rhombus, because a rhombus is also on the third level. Now, a rhombus has four congruent sides. Okay, another thing that's also true is the same thing that's true about a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel and opposite sides are congruent. And it's also a quadrilateral, which automatically means that a rhombus has four sides. Okay? Now, one thing that is not true is that a rhombus does not have four right angles. Okay? So that's where a rhombus is different from a rectangle. Rectangles have four right angles. Rhombus have four congruent sides. Okay? Which is another way of saying that all the sides are equal. Okay, but they do not have four right angles. Rectangles have four right angles, but not all of the sides are congruent. Okay, next, now the last level here would be level 4 in the way that I'm defining it, and that's the square. Okay, and a square is something familiar from all the way going back to primary grade school. Okay, first grade. A square is a combination of a rectangle and a rhombus. It has four right angles and it has four congruent sides. Okay, all the sides are congruent and there are four right angles. So if a figure has four right angles and it has four congruent sides, it's called a square. Okay, now a square also, the opposite sides are parallel and the opposite sides are congruent. That's it, though. That applies. The parallelogram, the definitions of a parallelogram also apply to a square. Okay, and obviously squares have four sides. Okay, which makes it a quadrilateral. Now, hopefully this is kind of clearing some things up for some people to help you really understand the difference between a rectangle and a rhombus, and why a square is a rectangle and why a square is a rhombus, okay? And as you can see, I have these highlighted arrows, the blue highlighted arrows, and next to each blue highlighted arrow is the phrase is a. So for example, if we start all the way down at the bottom at level 4 where it says a square, if I'm looking at this arrow over here, the left side, I can read it saying a square is a rectangle, okay? Or I can say a square is a rhombus, all right? That's how you can read that. I can also say a rhombus is a parallelogram. I can also say a rectangle is a parallelogram. And I can also say that a parallelogram is a quadrilateral, okay? We could also say that a rectangle is a quadrilateral, a rectangle is a rhombus. A rhombus is a quadrilateral. And we could also say that a square is a quadrilateral, okay? So when you're saying something is something else, that means you're starting at the bottom and you're working your way back up, okay? However, if you start at the top, everything that's underneath is that thing. So for example, since parallelogram is underneath the word quadrilateral, that means that a parallelogram is a quadrilateral, okay? A rectangle is a quadrilateral. A rhombus is a quadrilateral. A square is a quadrilateral, all right? However, the things that are below each don't necessarily, for example, a square is all of the things above it, or all of the above things. A square is a rectangle, a square is a rhombus, a square is a parallelogram, and a square is a quadrilateral, okay? So, but yeah, hopefully, that's about it. That's all I wanted to cover in this video. So hopefully that, the goal was to clear up some misconceptions between rectangles, rhombus, parallelograms, and quadrilaterals, and give everybody firm definitions and things to help you define the differences between those things and what brings them all together, okay? So I'll see you all back for another video. Deuces.